Everyone, I'm Andrei Mincov, the founder of Trademark Factory, and this is another episode of Kick-Ass Brand Show. I have for you a client, a business owner who came up with a really cool way, use trademarks, not just to secure the brand, but actually use it as a competitive advantage. So with me is Terry Whin-Yates. He is the founder of Mr. Locksmith and a couple of other brands that we're going to mention during this interview. I've known him for how many years?
I think it's over 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years now, because I used to just listen to you give your talks and everything, and
Yeah.
I was paying attention bit by bit.
Yeah. So Terry is one of our older clients, and we've done a lot of things together, and that's what we're going to talk about.
Good.
Welcome. Thank you for agreeing to be on the show.
I had no choice.
No. Before we get into this, I have a question for you, because to me it was a big revelation when you shared with me just a couple of days ago that you have not really been running the Mr. Locksmith empire for that long. So why don't you tell us a story?
My life, my grandfather, father, uncle, all locksmiths. So I'm third generation locksmith, and my sons are fourth generation locksmiths.
Okay.
So I've been in the business a long time, and my career has basically been working as a locksmith, owning my own companies. Then I'd sell out, go to university for a while, then I'd go work for government for a while, then I'd start up business again. So as what you know as Mr. Locksmith, which you trademarked, is actually we're coming up to our 7th year as a franchise right now. And that's evolving as we talk into out of the franchise world into the licensing world.
So how'd you get into the business? I mean, it's one thing to fix locks. It's the other thing to do what you've done.
The franchise model is quite interesting. I met a guy who brought in, he'd been working on some major franchises and brought into Canada from the US. He just happened to like locks, and we got talking, and I was doing locksmith training. I had my company, my locksmith company, and he said to me, "Why aren't you franchising?" And I'm going, well, I don't really understand the whole process. Make a long story short, we sat down, he laid it all out, the pros, the cons. Basically, I got the franchise agreement, followed, and I started studying other franchises, and I put together, I got the domain name for the company I wanted, I got my company name I wanted, put together the company that we would expand out. And that's what we've slowly been expanding, and we're at our 7th year now, and we're sort of at that point now where it's basically going to take off quite a bit. The next couple of years is going to be a bit of a huge growth spurt, but we sort of built in the back end. As you know, it's just, you have to have everything has to be written down. You have to have your marketing plan, you have to have policy and procedures, and also the back end on the computer stuff. The servers, you have to build your infrastructure to handle not just one company, but handle 100 or 200 or 300 franchises.
Yeah. So I know you have, in your time, done your criminology degree.
Yes.
Why is that? How does one play with the other?
I'd actually dropped out of high school. I got fed up. I didn't like high school. I hated high school. I went into, because I've been in the locksmithing for so long, I actually opened up my own locksmith company. My first company was 18.
Okay.
So I had my first locksmith company, and I got into, you asked why I went to school. I built up my company. I specialized, and I moved to, I handled across Canada. I built the company. I had lots of staff, lots of hassles. And at 30, I had sort of like the midlife crisis. I sold the company, sold the whole thing. I had a vicious non-compete. I couldn't compete for 5 years. I thought I would just sit and do nothing for a while. I got totally bored within about 3 months. And then my kids were still small, so a little bit difficult to do a lot of traveling. We camped a lot. But then I decided to go to college. And of course, my wife was totally confused, because here I am, a dropout, and I decided I'm going to go to college, very successful business-wise. And I read, first of all, they said, well, you don't have high school, you can't come. You have to finish your high school. I thought, I'm not going to go to high school again. So I read the small print. I'm good at reading the small print, looking what the angle is. And it said if you're an adult student, a mature student, you don't have to have the pre-qualifications. You come as a mature student.
Where does mature start?
So where does it went to them. I went to the same lady who told me no, and I said, I want to sign up as a mature student. And she just said yes. And I did a full load of 5 courses my first semester. Being a business person, at the time, I hired a typist. I had an English tutor. I had somebody read my essays and told me what to do properly. My first semester was actually quite successful. I treated it like a business. I was lucky I wasn't a poor student, so I could afford to have lots of helpers.
Yeah.
And really by the 3rd semester, I didn't have anybody. I was doing my own typing. I didn't have an English tutor anymore. I just did it all. And my 4th semester, I actually went to Simon Fraser University and started the criminology degree.
Why criminology?
You know, when I look back, when you think about what's useless degrees to have, the arts or the soft arts is definitely, why aren't you doing sciences or something at a job? So it was interesting. Half my class wanted to be police officers and the other half wanted to be lawyers. And they asked, what are you doing this for? And I said, well, so I can expand my security company. I'm going to get back into business and I'm going to do security, maybe become a director of security or training I was thinking of doing, getting back into the locksmithing. So I have to say the university was very, very good for teaching you how to do research, how to put together, besides your essays, I got into doing research grants and that sort of thing. I was quite successful at getting research grants. I went all the way through. Actually, I did my degree in 2 years, 4 months was my first degree.
Nice.
And I just stayed in school for about 5 years. Long story, very short.
You discovered something that is pretty remarkable for somebody who's not a trademark professional, which is, so your company, Mr. Locksmith, you figured out that by adding Mr. to a generic term, you get a trademarkable name.
And as you well know, I have a whole pile of Mr. Somethings.
You do. Honestly, pretty silly from the trademark law perspective, but that's how it works, right? They allow you, they shut down a lot of trademarks and say, well, that's descriptive. That's descriptive. And when you just say Mr. Something, to them, it's perfectly registrable, which is nuts.
Which you did for me.
Yeah. How did you figure that out?
I didn't. I just liked the name. It was interesting. I was originally came up with ProLock, which was for the Professional Locksmith College.
Yeah.
PROLOC.
Yeah.
And then somebody said, why don't you call it ProLock with the K? And then another person who said, why don't you just call it, a friend was going, we'll just call it Mr. ProLock. So one of the first cuts was actually Mr. ProLock as the company.
Yeah.
And of course, you have to own the domain names. Mr. Locksmith is kind of cool too. So I checked the domain name. I had it, so I incorporated a company. And I was always listening. You gave several talks, and I was listening to you talk about trademarks. And I always thought trademarks was sort of beyond me, or I wasn't necessary. But the more I sort of listened to you, I realized as I grow, I have to protect my company. And it just made total sense. What was your little saying? You had a slogan.
If it's remarkable, it's trademarkable. That
yes,
one?
that one. There was another one. You had a couple of good ones.
If it's worth promoting, it's worth protecting.
You've got a whole pile of ones. And I kept on listening to that and going, this company is growing. The value, it actually adds a lot of value to my company if I ever want to do an exit strategy. Right now, I love it. I'm having a lot of fun. But if I want to do an exit strategy, besides protecting my company, but owning the trademark, is extremely important for the balance sheets too.
The asset.
It's total assets. And how do you put a value on a company name, especially when you own the domain name?
Yeah.
And you want to protect your domain names, and when you own the trademark, and now you have copyright, we have logo trademarks. It's amazing how it just makes the whole company, and actually it helps me sell franchises or a new version is the
brand is what you sell to them.
I'm saying, what are they buying? They're buying what? you know, you can get a book on how to be a locksmith,
Yeah.
but they're buying the name, and the name is a trademark.
Because franchisees are already locksmiths, right? You're not teaching them how to open.
No, actually, some of my best franchisees have no experience whatsoever.
Really?
And we were talking about this the other day. My most successful locksmiths so far are not locksmiths, because the locksmiths don't want to listen. And you know, things have evolved. The marketing has changed, totally changed. We just don't do yellow pages. It's all internet. It's all social media. The old locksmiths don't understand this. The new guys who aren't locksmiths, they don't know, so they listen to me. So my most successful franchisees and licensees are not locksmiths. We've trained them from scratch.
Yeah, wow.
So, and we're just talking about that again. We have a few more locksmiths coming on board.
Yeah.
And I'm telling them, you guys got to listen, because the reason you haven't been successful as a locksmith, you may have really good skill sets, but you don't understand the business. And you have to understand the business, and you have to understand the marketing.
Yeah. And really, that was the lesson I learned the hard way when I started my law firm here in Canada. After all these years of being a lawyer and never having to look for clients, I came here like, oh, I'm a really good lawyer. Now, where's the lineup of people who want to use my services?
You know, and that's the whole problem. It's all marketing, isn't it?
It is. So, sure, you're the perfect example of a business owner who's figured it out. You started doing everything as a job, basically. You were the locksmith. You were the guy who was doing everything. Then you built a business around this. Then you built a franchise around this. And now it's just about the brand. So walk me through this. So you started on your own, you liked it, and then you came up with a business, right?
Well, my history was always building up a locksmith company.
Yeah.
Get it to about 5 years, get it profitable to 3 to 5 years, sell it, go to university for a little bit,
Yeah.
then go get a government job, get dissatisfied with the brain dead government job, and I go back into business. And I build up the company and sell it.
Right.
So I got into
Did you always know you're going to sell it?
Yes.
Always built
the company for selling. Everything had an exit strategy.
Yeah.
So, and that way I was pretty good. Came up with a name, built up the company, knew what I was doing, and sell it.
Yeah.
The interesting thing was when I met, and I started looking at other I thought about franchising when I was probably 18 years old. Tim Hortons, I lived in Ontario, and Tim Hortons Donuts was a big deal. And I was a little kid, and I went to a grand opening of a Tim Hortons. And my dad was explaining to me how there's so many Tim Hortons. We had no McDonald's back then, but Tim Hortons was a franchise. And I went to the opening of his 5th Tim Hortons, and it was interesting as a kid. So I sort of, when I had my first locksmith company, I was thinking about franchising, but I didn't understand it.
Right.
I met somebody who brought some major franchises to Canada. He explained to me I should be franchising, and it was perfect for me because I could build up, get a new franchisee, it was fun buying the service truck, filling it full of tools, training them and building up that business. And then he'd get it running. And then I was lucky I'd have another franchisee come on board. So I'm constantly building up new companies in new cities. Yeah. And it's a lot of fun because right now we're looking at another whole area of 6.5 million people. Mm-hmm. We're looking at the demographics, looking at the cities. It's fun looking at how I'm going to slice up that city and how we're going to put in our franchisees and how we're going to do our marketing. So for me, it's just every day is building the company. As we matured out in the Lower Mainland here, now we can go to another whole area and replicate what I've done, and we can keep on expanding. Yeah. Looking at another country, and the same thing. That's what we've been talking about, another trademark. So you said I did it the perfect way. I really didn't. I sort of built the company, and then as I moved along, going, okay, now what do I do? Now what do I do? So now when we build a company, we find the cool name. We find out it's trademarkable, but we also find out, can we own the domain names? So it all merges at once now. Name of get that domain name, get the trademark. Can we do it in North America, and can we do it in other countries we're targeting?
Okay. Well, when I said the perfect way, it's kind of the evolution, right?
It was an interesting evolution,
and I think the next step that you've already taken is with Mr. T.
Mr. T?
Yeah. The Mr. Toilet trademark?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Because
this is
I remember you gave me a call to Andre, can we trademark that? I'm like, are you going to be a plumber now? He said, no, I just want a company that's going to do this.
Well, don't forget, I hate toilets.
Yeah.
Let's go with number one reason. I hate toilets. And then and every time the thing breaks, you know, and with 4 boys, the toilets were always getting backlogged. They were breaking. I was spending a fortune on plumbers. So it's strictly because I hate toilets. I don't want to clean them. I don't want to touch them. I don't want to fix them. And I thought, you know, I'm spending a lot of money. So I found out, you know, after I'd done some trademarks with you, I thought, well, this is a cool idea.
Yeah.
So I thought, I got the domain name really quick, got mr.toilet.com. I phoned you quickly, said I want it for North America. You put it together.
Got it.
And that's a company we'll be playing with, looking at bringing in some partners in on that. And Mr. Toilet will evolve into the domain name, the trademark. We're just doing the social media and the marketing on that as well. We're already. I just talked to my insurance company today because there's a lot of liabilities with that business. You know, if you get a leak on the toilet on the 20th floor and it goes all the way down, there's some big liability issues. So putting the whole infrastructure in place, and we'll get the first one, and I'm getting all brand new toilets. I keep on testing new ones.
But what's brilliant about it is that you started with the brand, right? You didn't spend 5 years learning to become a plumber, right?
No, I just hate them. And I figured if I'm going to get into that business, I'm going to do it properly. So there's a couple companies. We can talk about that one. There's a couple more we're looking at. Yeah. So we're already putting together. I probably have like a 7-10 year plan in my head. Yeah. So we have my love of my life is my locksmithing, and I have other companies that I have interest in, and we're putting together those brands right from scratch. And then one of them, we may just sell the whole concept. Keep a small minority position, but sell the concept because everything's there. Yeah. It's ready to go. And why is it valuable? And we were talking about Mr. George Clooney.
Yes.
And you've done another video on that. And when I read his story on what he did with that company, I'm totally fascinated, and I love it. But that's another video to watch. Yeah. He came up with the name, trademarked it, and then decided, how am I going to make it? Yeah. And it's all
first
tequila.
Had a brand, then he launched the brand.
And he sold it for almost $1 billion. In
5 years.
5 years.
Printed $1 billion out of thin air.
$1 billion because he had the idea and he trademarked it.
You know, a lot of people, when I tell them the story, like, of course it's George Clooney. I'm like, you don't get it. It would have cost Diageo, who bought the brand, a lot less to hire him to advertise and all of their other drinks. If they wouldn't have had to pay $1 billion for it. There was something else. That's the brand.
Yes, he got the good name. And actually, when you hear the story about the McDonald's story, I had Ray Kroc's business card with a free Big Mac on it because he was in Toronto. He had a problem with a lock. We fixed it, and he gave me his business card. So I did meet Ray Kroc.
Wow.
But I saw the movie, and I've read the books on it, and the interesting thing is he loved the name. He liked the process they had. They had a unique process, but he absolutely loved the name. He said the name is what drew him to the company. Yeah. Interesting story.
Fascinating. The other thing I wanted you to share with the audience, and I think that's brilliant how you're doing this. So you don't just stare at your trademark registration certificates hanging on your wall.
No.
You're actually.
I do like them on my wall, though.
Yeah.
I have
But you're actually using your trademarks to be probably one of your biggest competitive advantages now. Tell us the war stories. Come on.
The war stories is quite unique. We have a real problem in our business, and other businesses have the same thing. We call them squatters or scammer locksmiths. Yeah. On the internet, they'll take your name, set up a fake website, put up fake phone numbers, and they act like they're you, or they're just close enough to your name to confuse people. They make their websites. With the power of the trademark, our team has been able to put together, a lot of times it's just a simple letter. We send off a letter to the host of the person or company who's violating our trademark. We set off a cease and desist, and there's a few other fancy words. We send that to the host, a provider of the website, and within 24 to 48 hours, we shut down the host shuts down that client. So we get rid of them that way.
Yeah.
Then we send off, we do it all at one go. We get their Facebook shut down, we get their Twitter shut down, we get their Instagram shut down.
Yeah.
Instantly, boom. I made the mistake once of actually calling the guy and say, look, you've made a mistake. You're too close to my name. He goes, oh, I'm sorry. And then he lawyered up. And then all of a sudden, now it's a 4 to 6 week thing, because I thought, well, you made a mistake, fix it. Now he's lawyered up, and I'm talking to the lawyer, and I'm not using a lawyer yet on this, and we're prepared to defend our trademark. And I said to the lawyer, you know, we're right. And he says, well, blah, blah, blah. And I said, but you know you're going to lose, so just shut it down. But they're stalling. I got so fed up after that phone call with the lawyer that we sent off all the letters, and everything the guy had was shut down. And I was going to seize his van because he had my trademark on his van, and we were prepared to tow his van. All without lawyers, which lawyers don't want to hear. But the host providers and everybody else is so worried that you may not be able to sue the guy infringing on your trademark, but you can certainly sue the likes of GoDaddy or Facebook or Twitter. And probably you'd love to sue Facebook or something, because they have deep pockets. They're going to fight you like crazy, but they're going to lose the battle. So it's interesting how it goes. And we're actually, so again, to answer your question, the trademark is protected our brand against the scammers. We're well over, in the last 18 months, we've probably shut down 20 or more websites.
Wow.
We've shut down literally thousands of web pages infringing on our trademark. Instagram accounts, Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts.
With $0 paid to lawyers to accomplish that.
We're not paying thousands of dollars. We do have to pay our people to write the letters, send them off. Yeah. But it's basically a form. And you say my trademark, my wall of trademarks. We photocopied everything. We send that off. This is our trademark. Here's our Canadian trademark. Here's our U.S. trademark. Yeah. So they see that. And there's no argument. Quickest was like 12 hours. A whole guy lost everything he had. Most of the time, they're infringing on purpose.
Yeah, and really that's what I mean, that a registered trademark makes it infinitely easier and cheaper to enforce it. Because when you don't have it, then the other side, well, let them prove it. And here, all you have to do is show them one piece of paper, or even a photograph of a piece of paper.
Yeah, we just email them the picture of the trademark. Like, you know, that nice little. The American one looks way better than the Canadian one. No, the Canadian one looks okay too. Yeah. So it's interesting. Just blast off that. No questions. Their law department doesn't call us. Nothing. They just shut the guy down. And then usually when they hobble back, like the one guy was really interesting. We shut down his Canadian 4 websites, a couple thousand pages. He shut down, the host shut down all his websites infringing on trademark. And he took one and opened it in Georgia, not Georgia, USA. The host for this is now in Georgia.
Like Georgia.
Georgia. Where is Georgia? Somewhere over there. There be dragons. And I figured he's on like page 50 or something in Georgia. I think we looked it up. The Georgia does acknowledge trademarks, like China acknowledges trademarks. So we could shut it down, but I'm figuring, let them suffer in Georgia for a couple of months or a couple of years. If he comes over to North America, we'll hit him again. But we may shut him down in Georgia too, because apparently Georgia, in theory, recognizes trademarks. They're part of the, what's that, a consortium, alliance?
Paris Agreement.
Yeah, but China's in it.
Yeah.
Trademarks is now
most countries recognize it.
Because now, like, China has to protect their trademarks, so they have to protect your trademark. Yeah. So I love it.
It's fascinating. So 20 people, 20 enemies.
I'm probably being low at 20, but we're talking thousands upon thousands of web pages, and it's thousands of, and it's mostly scammer, what we call scammer unlicensed locksmiths.
Yeah.
And they try little variations of our name. Boom, we hit them. The copyright has worked to a certain degree. They use some of our images. The logo, kill them on that because we trademarked the logo too. Yeah. So I guess I'm your poster child for trademarks.
That's why I wanted to.
Yeah, that's why you wanted to interview me here.
There's a reason why I wanted to.
I was just too busy, but it's and I recommend. I even did a rant on my YouTube channel because somebody was pissed me off. They were using my logo, and I ranted, but we'd shut them down. And you know the power of it. And even if we're prepared to go to court. Yeah. But the courts, I don't think we'll ever see the likes of a courtroom because it's just so powerful.
There's nothing to fight about. Like it's there.
It's very simple, you know, and I know there could be slight variations, but the rule of law or case law is so I think that's got to be the most powerful law or civil law or court cases, whatever you want to call it. You're the lawyer. But it's so powerful, nobody even wants to fight. They look at it. It doesn't take a genius to see, oh, there's your fancy, there's your trademark and all your papers, and here's the infringed copy. You don't need a lawyer to go, oh shoot, we got to do something. Yep. And I can imagine going to court. Court must be great. Like what you know, it's if it's so close.
Court is not great because the thing with North American courts is that what takes you 5 seconds to like, duh.
Yeah.
Usually it takes 2 or 3 days with experts and reports, and there's a process to explaining what's obvious to a layman. Yeah. To explain that to the judge. And
yeah,
that's what costs an arm.
It's very, very expensive. Most of these people infringing on your trademark are just, you know, claim jumpers, or they want to see if you're going to protect your trademark. Exactly. And that's also the double-edged sword. You have a trademark, you have to protect it. Yeah. And I've seen one company, they've trademarked their company, and they're not protecting it. Mm-hmm. And it drives me nuts because he's got an interesting, it's a totally different industry, and it's a cool name, and he's got a trademark, but he's not protecting himself, and I don't understand why. You know, each to their own. Yeah. You got to be prepared to fight.
Absolutely. So one last question before I let you go. It's a kick-ass brand show. I want to ask you, in your opinion, what makes a brand kick-ass?
Well, if we knew that, we'd all be billionaires, though, wouldn't we? You know, what makes a brand a kick-ass?
I mean, you've built brands that you were able to sell that have value. What about them makes you feel proud, and what about them makes the buyers pull out their wallets and give you the money?
That's easier. Yes, you have to have everything in place. Nowadays, before I'd even think about, and I tell people I know, I said, the basics now, it's not, am I going to incorporate or partnerships? Am I going to do this? Besides having the passion for your business and having a viable business, you have to protect your name. You have to get your domain name and copyright. You know, but it really, the most powerful of my company and other companies and George Clooney's company, the trademark protects it. Yeah. And you can't, and I hate to say it, you can't spend enough to protect it. You know, the cost of a trademark is minuscule in the cost of the business. Yeah. But it really hurts a lot of first-time people as they're building up their company. And the one thing I learned a long time ago is don't think small, think big. If it's going to be successful as a business, you can replicate it and you can grow your company, or you can franchise or license it. You know, one of the biggest companies in the world, Coca-Cola. They have they've got a powerful brand, trademarked.
1892, their first trademark.
Everywhere in the world, they licensed it and replicated the model around the world. And what's the value of Coca-Cola? The trademark. It's everything. But 1892?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the year when they were selling 9 drinks a day.
Yeah. 9 drinks a day, and they trademarked it way back.
Called a lemonade stand with a dream. right? They knew they could build it into something big. And if they did, the brand would be the biggest asset. And it became the biggest asset.
Because when you look at it, what's the Coca-Cola recipe? Is Pepsi, there's all the copies, but what's worth billions upon, is it trillions of dollars yet? What's worth billions of dollars? Coca-Cola. Yeah. It's the trademark. Look at most of the, what major company, there's none that don't have a trademark.
I do my presentations, one of the questions I always ask. Can you think of a successful business without thinking of its brand?
No, nothing.
Because the brand is what you think about when you think of a successful business.
Yes. So what's the trademark worth? It's worth more than the, you can't put a value on. Well, you have to put a value on it. It's got, didn't answer that one too well. Yeah. What's the value of the trademark? It's whatever somebody will write you that check to buy it off you.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Well, thanks for inviting me. This is fun.
I think you shared some really good insights. Shows my audience and your audience really your way of thinking, the way of taking an intangible asset, the name or the logo or the slogan, and turning this into something that works, turning it into something that others are willing to get into. And it was great of you to have shared this. Thank you. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Kick-Ass Brand Show with Terry Whin-Yates of Mr. Locksmith. I learned a lot of things that I didn't know before, even though Terry was my client for many years. And he shared some really valuable insights. So I'm wondering what you got out of this. Was there anything that you're going to implement in your business to make this, the time that you spent with us right now, worth your while? So leave a comment and subscribe to make sure that the next video, you're the first one to know when it comes out live. See you in the next video.